welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Scotland, and as you can tell by today's title, we are doing my 2023 reading journal flip through. Now, I'm very excited to do this because I've never done a reading journal before, and I've been so inspired by so many different book talkers, but one in particular, or two in particular. I think her name is Cassandra, and then also Katie is Reading. I love watching their videos, and I love seeing their reading journals, and it really left me inspired to start my own. On TikTok, I've seen so many really cute junk journals that I just love, like the scrapbooking vibe of it, and so I really wanted to start my own this past year, and I had such a good time, or such a great time, actually doing it. Now, I'm very much so a perfectionist at heart, to where if I don't think I'm going to do it well, I don't want to do it at all. So this year's reading journal was really a practice in letting go, just having a good time, and doing something that doesn't require being on a screen. This is my reading journal. It's just a basic one from Michaels. I think was probably about $10. I really loved this journal, and I still have quite a few pages left to fill out. So this is also going to be my 2024 journal, but I do think in the future, if I continue doing this, which I really hope that I do, I probably would get a different journal that's a little pricier, just because the pages in this one are not super thin. They're like a pretty decent size page thickness, but my pens do sometimes bleed through, and I think that would be the only thing that I would do differently in a different journal, or that would get me to buy a different journal. It's just that sometimes it is kind of annoying to see like the bleed through of my pens. If you're someone who's been wanting to get into bullet journaling, or just journaling in general with like reading journals, I think this is a really good start, because you're kind of really structured in what you're doing, in the sense of like you read a book, you write about the book, whereas I know sometimes journaling can be really difficult in figuring out like what you're supposed to be journaling. So I think this was a really fun endeavor for me for 2023, and I'm looking forward to doing more journaling, and I'm looking forward to doing more journaling in 2024. So without further ado, we're just gonna go ahead and set the vibe and get straight into my journal. As you can tell, I just have a couple of pictures, or I just have a couple of stickers on here. The majority of these are from Brandy Melville from like years ago that I've just been trying to get rid of, but I'm pretty sure this one is Book of the Month. And this one is from Ginny's Ice Cream. I don't know if that's like all over or if it's just a Texas thing, but they have really good ice cream, and I thought this sticker was super cute. Let's go ahead and open it up and really hope that I don't spill my coffee, or worse, set something on fire. So this journal is just from Michaels. It's the $10 one, I'm pretty sure. And this is my first reading journal that I've like ever done, really, so we're gonna see some progression here. I wanted to make sure with this reading journal that I wasn't trying to be too perfect, because I have tried bullet journaling in the past, but I have a really big issue with like being sort of a perfectionist with things, and with this journal I really wanted to move away from that and just go with it's better to be done than to be perfect. So I took a lot of chances with this journal, and I had a lot of fun filling it out, and I'm really excited to do my 2024 one. And I do enjoy this like 2023. I thought it was pretty cute. This is my title page, and then honestly I did really bad at all of the updates throughout the year. You can see I did pretty well all the way up until April, which is pretty accurate to when I stopped filling this out altogether, to be honest, but I don't think I'll be doing this one again in my 2024 one, just because it was really difficult for me to keep up with, and I don't really care too much to keep up with it that much. But the idea with this was to fill out every single day that I read, and then put a star on the days that I finished a book. So I do see like there was one day that I did read consistently for the first 4 months of the year, so that's pretty interesting. Flipping the page, this is also, like I said, so I really had no real set understanding of how I wanted to do like the colors of the books. And there really is no coordination to it. I just picked the colors I wanted to do, and they mean absolutely nothing, but this was just like a trial and error kind of thing. I'm just figuring out how I wanted to do it, what kind of pens I wanted to use, what the colors would look like. The colors that I do use for my reading journal is the Tombow pens and also Crayola pens, or Crayola markers. But yeah, so this is my bookshelf for the entire year with all 45 books that I read last year. And then also this is like my rating system and my reference page of just what size the book covers needed to be in order to fit into my journal. And then also like just my ratings of how my 5 stars all the way to 1 star is actually like what they mean. Now this is probably my most favorite part of my entire 2023 reading journal. It's just so satisfying to look at, honestly. This is just like you can see my reading reviews log in picture form. So I just printed out every single book that I read throughout the year and I put the genre. You can't really tell, but I put the genre, the date that I started it, the date that I finished it, and then just my rating. So I did that for, like I said, all of the books that I've done. I need to fill out this one. This is for the short story I read from Sally Rooney. So I need to figure out how I'm going to put a picture here just because it's technically a part of this one, but whatever. So yeah, I read that. So yeah, these are just the pages I really love. They're just honestly very satisfying to look at. But as we flip through, show you, this is kind of the same thing. So this is the exact same thing as these pages, but it's just in a list form now, more as like an index kind of thing, but it has the exact same information as this one, just minus the genre. It's just the title, the date that I finished it, and then my rating for it. And so since these are essentially the exact same thing, I'm pretty sure for my 2024 setup, I won't be moving forward with this just because it was kind of really redundant. And while it was fun to fill out, it kind of made it feel more like a chore. And for my 2024 reading journal, I really want to move away from like making things feel like a chore and just not enjoying it too much. So while I love this, I will be condensing these pages down to just be the picture and then just have the reading log from here. And then this is another page that honestly didn't do too well either. Here, I'll zoom you in a bit. This didn't do too well either. This is my series tracker. So I have my ACOTAR series, Throne of Glass series, and the Crescent City series, as well as some extra series. These are the ones I started the year off with. Actually, I take that back because I had only started with these two in 2023. And by the end of the year, I had started collecting these books, but I knew I wanted to start this series in 2023, which I really didn't do until probably November. But yes, so then these are series that I picked up throughout the year, and the only ones that I actually finished are the ACOTAR series and the Shadow and Bone series. I'm kind of done with series, to be honest. I don't really want to read too many more. Like once I finish the Throne of Glass series and the Red Queen series, I think I'm going to take a break. I kind of want to go back to just reading standalones and more of the lit fic and less of the fantasy series. While I am loving it, I don't want to have to continuously read series, to be honest. But yeah, this is the overall series tracker. Not my favorite, but it got the job done with tracking the series that I wanted to read. And then also another page. We're keeping it very honest here, you guys. I have not kept up with this part of the journal really at all, to be honest. And I kind of just written in the books for the months. And so when I do end up going back to get the pictures printed, I will end up filling this part out. But right now I didn't really want to do that, and I also just wanted to film this video. So, but these are my monthly favorites. As you can see, once again, May is really where I stopped keeping up with this journal, if I'm being honest. And then back in November is when I picked it back up because I knew I wanted to do a 2023 reading journal wrap up. So I'm keeping it so honest here. This is probably the last time I actually touch this between now in May. Like, I think I picked this journal back up in, like I said, November. So yeah, anywho, turning the page, this is what I had as my TBR for 2023, and I did have 15 books and I read 10 out of them. So I don't know what the math of that is or the percentage of that is. It's close to 80, I feel like, maybe even like a 85, but I think I did pretty well with this list and actually reading it, which a lot of the things that I did manage to read makes a lot of sense to me just because they are kind of shorter stories and less complicated to get through. Like Babel here, I'm pretty sure it's going to take me a while to get through, as well as The Secret History and On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. It's a fairly short book, but kind of heavier in topic, so I haven't gravitated towards it quite yet. And then Walhalla is just a random book that I got off of Book Outlet that I thought I would really like, and I have tried reading it a couple of times, and I'm just never in the mood to read it. So hopefully one day I will finally pick that up. And then also Circe. I've tried reading this one a couple of times. I've gotten like a few chapters in every single time I've read it, and I just haven't loved it, but I know so many people love it, and I did kind of like A Song of Achilles, so this one will continue into 2024. I won't donate it, but I'm not quite sure if I want to read it still. So yeah, that is where we are. Now we are going to go into our monthly setups. And like I said, once again, we only made it till probably about April, but you're going to see how I backtracked all of the books. So this is my January page. I really like how I set this one up just because I thought it was kind of fun and abstract, but not really. Okay, so this is usually how I would set up my journal. I would have a stats page behind the title page, and I would have a little calendar with each day that I finished a book, and then some of my stats for the month, which are how many books I finished, the number of pages, and what format. So this month I did 7 books, and I read, I think 3 ebooks, or maybe 4 ebooks, but clearly can't do math here, and 3 physical books. And then I also had my anticipated TBR and the books that I bought. And so that's how I usually set up my statistics. And then in this section was my DNF graveyard. So I would write down the book that I didn't finish that month and a little description of why, like if I DNF'd it for real or if I just paused it for the month. But this month I had just finished, I'm pretty sure I read My Dark Vanessa a while ago, but I was in the mood to read something kind of similar to it, and I started reading Tampa, and if anybody knows about this book, it was grotesque in the most horrific way, and I could not do it. I said, I'm putting this one back. I'm choosing my mental health over that one. So if you've read Tampa, silence. Like, you are a strong person for reading that. I could not do it. But anywho, so we go into the reviews for the books. So this is usually where I put my reviews for books that I'm not too obsessed or over the hills in love with, and I just want to jot down my thoughts on it. So I'm not going to go into every single book I read, but this is how I set it up with the title, my little review of it, and then my stars, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this one kind of looks a little iffy, but like I said, this is my first journal, and I'm really learning the lay of the land when it comes to bullet journaling, so I wasn't going to be hard on myself. Now, this is how I love to do my journal. Okay, I do kind of a scrapbook junk journal kind of vibe for my reviews of the books that I do love, and so this is my page for A Court of Wings and Ruins by Sarah J. Maas, which is the 3rd book in the ACOTAR series. So usually what I do is I pull out my favorite quotes or just things that are commonly said throughout the book that I really love. And this one, it says curse breaker, and I just go and I print out my pictures and I just scrapbook them really, and I just write down all of my thoughts for the books. And then usually here you'll see throughout my journals I'll have like a highlighted line, and that's just more quotes from the books and more of my thoughts on that quote. So this is probably my favorite page. One of my favorite pages. Honestly, I love all of my pages that are like this, but this is the first one I did, and I was really proud of how this one came out. So I love this one. Then turning the page, this is the one I had for The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Same concept. My favorite quote of this one is, "He's half of my soul." And then also, I don't know how to say this, I'm not even going to, but if you've read it, you know it. It's like Aristo Archion, I think. But yeah, I just really enjoy doing the scrapbook version of my bullet journaling, or I really enjoy doing this version of reading journaling just because I feel like it's more creative for me, and I just enjoy writing, honestly. That's really the entire reason why, is I actually enjoy the physical act of writing and I like to write this much for my reviews, and it's just nice to go back and look at. So yeah, I just like I said, I just usually do fan art. That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry. I do fan art and I find pictures of like the vibe of the book from Pinterest, and I just cut them out and kind of scrapbook and collage them in here, which I don't know, I really love this page as well. So yeah. And then for the end of January, these are just the rest of the books that I did quick little reviews on that I read in January. And then this is February. I like getting bolder and badder here. I really took some risk with all the colors and just doodles on this page, which I really enjoyed. You'll see throughout the journal, I'm really trying to find what works best for me when it comes to these kind of journals. So everything changes throughout, but pretty much the exact same thing for my stats. Once again, fallen behind with not actually updating this part, which is something I stopped doing, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I only finished, it looks like I only finished, no, I think, anyhow, I probably only finished one book in February, and then this is my anticipated TBR. It says I finished 2, but my thoughts are is that I probably started both of them in February and only finished 1, or I just forgot to put the finished dot here. But yeah, same thing, the amount of books that I bought, and then the books that I DNF'd. And the idea here was to put how many pages I got into it, but clearly it stayed as an idea and not as an actual thing to do. But once again, my reviews for the books that I read, doing kind of a different style. Actually, this isn't reviews of the books that I read. This is actually the same thing as the DNF'd and paused one from January, basically explaining my little thoughts of why I haven't finished the book and if I'll go back to it. So same concept, just on the different page. And then here is my page for Bloodmarked. I don't know if I've really mentioned or talked too much about this book in particular. I was looking forward to it immensely, and I had such a tough time getting through it. I did not love this book at all. I don't hate it, but it did not live up to the first book. To me, my personal opinion, it did not live up to the first book, but I still wanted to give it its page because, like I said, I did not hate it and I did enjoy like what it was trying to do. I just don't think it handled it quite well, but I will continue the series when she releases the 3rd book, which I don't think is coming out until 2025, which kind of sucks, but whatever. So yeah, this is this page. And then this is my page for Such a Fun Age. I was so pleasantly shocked by how much I honestly loved this book. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about this one, about how people really didn't like the writing style or the vernacular used in it, but I ate it up. I think I finished this book in like 1 day, maybe like 1.5 days. Which is really fast for me. I know some people can do it in like hours, but not me. But I really loved this book. It's such a good one, and if you haven't read it, I highly, highly recommend. And I'm pretty sure Kylie Reid, the author of this one, is releasing a new book, I think her 2nd book, in a couple of weeks in January, called Come and Get It. So I'm really excited to go and get it. Then we go into March. This one I really don't love. Very uninspired for March. I was kind of trying to go for like a little clover thing for like St. Patrick's Day, but it didn't really look that good, but it's okay. We live and we learn. Same setup here. I do my DNF pause. This month I was struggling to get through Mona, which I did eventually finish, and then also Magnolia Parks, which I have not finished quite yet. And now that I only have the first book in the original cover, and they don't make the original covers for the rest of the series anymore, I don't see myself finishing this series, to be honest. For that reason alone. My anticipated TBR, which also in 2024 I will no longer be doing, because as a mood reader, it really is a waste of my time. I honestly have no I have never stuck to a TBR. Never done it. I've just done it for vibes, honestly, and I never stick to them, so I won't be doing that anymore. Here is one of my favorite books that I read last year, Acts of Desperation by Megan Nolan. If you haven't read the story, it's basically about this girl who is in a very, very toxic relationship, and she's so aware that she is, but doesn't have enough self-love in herself to remove herself from that situation until things go really awry. And I think it's a phenomenal story because it's never named. Like, the girl's name, the narrator, she's never given a name. Never. Throughout the entire book, we never learn her name, and I think that's such a good storytelling element that Megan Nolan did so well for this to be her debut novel. So I love this book. If you haven't read it, you need to read it immediately. It's probably like 300 pages. It's very short. So I highly recommend this one. This quote has stuck with me the entire year, and we'll talk more about that at the end, honestly. So yeah. And then this is another random book that I picked up at Half Price Books because around this time I was really tired of taking recommendations from BookTok, to be honest, because I felt like they were giving the same recommendations over and over again, and that was getting really irritating. And I kind of miss the times in life where you would just go to the bookstore and find a random book and buy it and read it. So this is how I ended up with this book. Now, did I love this book? No. Did I hate this book? No. But it really left no lasting impression on me, but I had done this already before I had actually, I think, finished the book or made the decision that I wasn't going to do a whole page for it. So I had to do a whole page for it in my way of, I really didn't have a lot to say about this book. I really didn't have too much to say about it, and my way of getting around that was putting these giant book pages on here to make the space a lot smaller that I had to write on. But here's April. I really kind of think I like this page. I think I like this title page. This is probably one of my second best ones. I still like January the most, but I do like how this one came out, and I think I'll probably do more of this style in 2024 because it leaves less room for error for me. So I just pick a picture, put it on here, and put the title. So I think that's probably what I'm going to start doing. Same thing, my stats, pages read, the books I bought, which thankfully only bought one, and then my DNF'd books, which was just City of Bones. Here is my second favorite book of the year by Sally Rooney. If you know me at all, you know I would read this woman's grocery list and take notes on it. But I love this book so much. It's Beautiful World, Where Are You? Gave it 5 stars. In my journal here, I started taking a bit more creative liberties and, I don't know, thought I was an artist and wanted to copy the cover of the book. So I did some drawing, some colored pencil in the background. I don't know. I don't hate it. I think it looks kind of nice. So that's that one. And then here is my spread for Shadow and Bone. There goes my camera doing funny things, but that's okay. This series. Did I love the series? I love how I phrase questions to myself, but that's okay. I think I liked it enough to not hate it. I do remember really enjoying Alina's voice and how her character was, like, I liked her character's voice. And I found Mal quite annoying every now and then, but he redeemed himself, so that's fine. The Darkling, couldn't see his appeal, but I could understand how if I was an orphan who knew no love and I had all the attention from this man, how I too would fall into that trap. Same concept, quote, and here I started putting like the page numbers because I thought that would be kind of smart, and I also didn't have much else I wanted to write, so page number there. And then also some more quotes and a sun summoner, but yeah. And then I really love my page for Siege and Storm just because I like the colors of the blue and the tan together. And also, this was my favorite book in the series, actually. I gave this one 4 stars, and I gave the first one, I'm pretty sure, 3 stars. Yeah, I gave it 3 stars. And I gave the last one, I think, 3.5. Yeah, 3.5. But I really love Siege and Storm, mainly because my favorite character in the stories gets introduced in this one, and that man has such a good character voice, character personality, and he really saves the series for me. Not much else to say on this page. You can just see same concept, a quote and collage. We have to get into Six of Crows, you guys. This is when I decided that I no longer wanted to take TikTok recommendations. I did, okay, because I started this whole series, this whole trilogy, because I wanted to read Six of Crows. That's the entire reason why I did all of this. And then I got to Six of Crows and I didn't like it. I was like, what the heck? Obviously I didn't hate it because I did 3.75, like 3.75 stars for this one. But you can see for Crooked Kingdom, I'm pretty sure I started this book in August. It's now January. And I just I just don't like it. And I think the biggest issue I have with this book, which I also had an issue with in Ninth House, is how long the chapters are. The chapters are so long. There are so many characters. I don't feel connected to really any of them, if I'm being completely honest. And I think it's also because I think it's in third person and not in first person. So the third person, the long chapters, the amount of characters, I really didn't like this. I did not like this duology, and I decided that I would never read another Leigh Bardugo book because I really struggled through Ninth House, and I struggled through Six of Crow. I only felt about an average of 3 stars for the Shadow and Bone series, so I figured, you know what, I'm not interested in reading anything else by her, to be honest. So, no hate to her, because she's not awful. I just did not like this. I did not like this at all. Anywho. So now we get into my summer reading. This was my solve for not keeping up with this journal. After about April and May, I did read quite a bit. This is when I got into hockey romance in the summer, which is kind of weird because you would think that would be something you do in the winter. But no, I got into hockey romance. I started reading The Deal, or the Off-Campus series, I think by Elle Kennedy. And I really loved it. I really loved how crazy that book was, and I do enjoy this series. Now, I did stop after the score because I didn't like the trope that the next book is about. I did not like the unplanned pregnancy trope. I don't vibe with it, so I stopped there. And that's the end of the series for me. But I really enjoyed this one. I enjoyed how this page comes out, and I like how kind of simple it is with the colors. And as well with the stickers, I think these are so much fun. Have they made writing in this journal a lot harder? They have, but it's okay. Anything for cuteness. I read Mona, which I finally finished and also didn't love. I read 7 Days in June, which was surprisingly good, and I did enjoy that one. I was iffy about it, but I did read it. I did enjoy it. I also did like a tandem read with the audiobook with it, which I think is why I enjoyed reading it so much more than I thought I would. Then, of course, Here's the Deal. I already talked about that one. And then this one is Sunny Disposition. Yeah. So after I read The Deal, I was like, oh, I need more hockey romance, but put a black girl in it. And I found this one, and I deeply enjoyed. Yeah, and then we have, oh, you know what? Maybe I should read something a little more elevated. So I started reading Giovanni's Room. Really enjoyed that one as well. That one was, I think, probably a 4-star for me. And then this one is The Mistake, which honestly is probably the worst one that I've read in the Off-Campus series, because I just could not understand how they were so head over heels for each other. Couldn't understand that. Really couldn't get behind it, but I finished it and I did enjoy it, so it wasn't horrible. And then The Score is actually, in my opinion, the best one in the Off-Campus series. I think it's better than the first book. And I don't know how this one got here, but The Score is so good. It's actually quite good. I think I might actually reread that one. That one was actually really fun. Here is where we get more into the fall. So this is where I did my autumn TBR, and then also I had read A Dowry of Blood in the middle of summer, which I was saving for fall, but I really wanted to read it, so I got into it quite early. But I love this spread. I think it's so pretty. I really enjoyed how I did like the little cutout of the hand here with the heart. And this is when I start to realize that things look better when you layer them, like with the picture. So I did like, I don't remember whose video I watched to learn how to do this, but this is tea stained paper. So basically all you do is like you brew some tea and you put paper in it for like a couple of hours, and then it stains like your paper, and then you just dry it out and you can just use it. And I think that was incredibly done. That was a good choice of me. So I started using that more. And of course I kept with the book pages, but things do look a lot better when you just layer them. They look so much more fun. So yeah, take a note. 5-star read for me. Loved this one. By S.T. Gibson, also another debut novel. So this was the year of great debut novels for me. I'm very excited that I think every single one that I read was probably a 5-star read for me. So really enjoyed this one. Here is how I did my autumn TBR. This is where I decided that I wasn't going to do month-to-month TBRs anymore, but do like seasonal ones, because I feel like once you get to autumn, all of the months kind of feel the same, if that makes sense, and you always just want to read fantasy or horror or, I don't know, mystery, whatever, But yeah, so I had like my fantasy one, my dark academia one, and then my horror one, and then of course my attempted reads, which is just the same thing as like my DNF graveyard or the books that I paused. And then also listed out my fave books and my least fave book, because I couldn't stop talking about how much I did not enjoy Crooked Kingdom. And I mean, I will finish it because I own the book, so I have to finish reading it, but anyhow, we don't have to get back into that. But we do have A Court of Silver Flame and Fourth Wing, which leads us into, I'm pretty sure, our actual pages. Yeah. Now, this is my favorite page. I think this one is actually my favorite. I think I've said that like probably 3 times, but this is the actual favorite of mine. I love Heartstopper with my entire heart. It says, I'm in love with this. I don't just love it, I'm in love with Heartstopper. It is the sweetest, most wholesome, most pure, wistful series I have ever read and I have ever seen on TV, and I will forever rant and rave about this book. I feel like I talk about it so often, so we really don't need to get into it because it's not new. If you've been here, you know how much I love this series, but I had to give it its own page. And I'm pretty proud of how I drew the little leaves, because you guys, I can't draw. I'm really bad at drawing, but this on camera, it's kind of giving, so I'm pretty proud of that. It's a surprise to you and I. What's next? Oh yeah, okay, Fourth Wing. This was actually such a surprise for me. I had vehemently decided that I was not going to read this book because, like I said, I wasn't taking any more book talk recommendations, but I kept getting quotes from this book all over TikTok, and I was like, ugh, I guess I'll read it. And it also was available at my library on the Libby app. Like, the moment I decided I wanted to read it, it happened to be available. So I was like, okay, I guess it's meant to be. And man, I am actually really glad I read this. This was actually a very good book, okay? It's not remarkable. It's actually filled with tropes. It's not well written, but I think because I went in with such low expectations that I actually had the bar below the floor, I pleasantly really enjoyed this book, and I'm excited to finish reading Iron Flame. Iron Flame is kind of testing my patience because if you've read it, you know, but I'm excited to finish reading this one, and I do enjoy this quote, I will not die today, because same Violet, I also will not die today. Okay, here is A Court of Silver Flames, y'all. Nesta, she was testing me, okay? She really was testing me. But I have to say, I have such appreciation for this book, okay? We can all argue back and forth our thoughts on Sarah J. Maas, if she's a good writer, if she's not a good writer, whatever. I don't really care, and it could be because this is like the first introduction to fantasy I have, so I can't really be like, best fantasy ever, because I haven't read that much. I think I've only read Sarah J. Maas at this point and Rebecca Yarros, so who am I to have the gamut on this? But I love how unlikable Nesta is. That woman is so unlikable that she's kind of likable. You're kind of like, man, you really don't care that you're not likable. But when you read it, you realize she actually does really care about it, and I think this book does an incredible job at, I don't know, like giving you a guide through how grief, trauma, and shame and like guilt really motivates you as a character. And even when you like are very self-aware of those issues and how you feel trapped and not knowing how to get rid of them or move away from them, and also just perseverance through hard times, this is a very, very good book for that. And that actually shocked me. It did really shock me how good this book was. And also, of course, the smut, the spice, it's good. But sometimes I was like, can you get out the way? I'm trying to get back to the character development, because whoa. Anywho, but yeah, I really love this book. I think I gave it 5 stars, which is whoa, I know. But yeah, this is actually a very good book. And if you are hesitant on whether or not you like Nesta, please let me be the one to say it's okay if you don't like her. That is the point. But she does redeem herself in this book. Does it happen in the last 150 pages out of this 700-page book? Yes. You will not like her for at least 600 pages of this book. But the persistency of her character, it's admirable. It's kind of absurd, honestly, how admirable it is. And I enjoy that it doesn't end with her being likable, to be honest. You just gotta read it for yourself, you guys. This is a very good book. And then, yay, this is my 2023 Wrapped. You guys, we've made it. We've made it to the end of the year. What the heck? Can you believe it? Anywho. So I kind of did it like the Spotify Wrapped kind of theme, but I really enjoy this one. I really like the colors and how I put it all together. So on this side, I have my favorite books from the year. Like I mentioned, is Acts of Desperation, Beautiful World, Where Are You, The Deal, and Nick and Charlie, which I think is just a little novella of the Heartstopper series, but really holds up on its own, and I really love this one. And then my favorite quote that has stuck with me the entire year and comes from Acts of Desperation is the quote that says, "Wheedling is cowardly and dangerous." I always think about it all the time, and if you want to know more context behind this quote, it's kind of, I will say if you read this book, please check the trigger warnings. It's very triggering for those who might have experienced these tough situations. But basically, it's just like when someone asks you why when you say no and someone asks you why, and they keep asking you why with the intention of changing your mind, this is what this quote is kind of saying. Wheedling is cowardly and dangerous because you're taking away my right to say no. And I loved this quote, and I think about it all the time. But yeah, so then I have my genres. So I split them up in just my lit fic, fantasy, romance, and other. And the other genre is pretty much like my queer, YA, and nonfiction books, which I didn't read that many, and all of my queer books were were the Heartstopper series. So yeah. And then my average rating for the year was 3.9, which has left me thinking that's not horrible, but if I'm spending so much time, as you can see here, my total minutes for the year reading was 24,699 minutes, which I'm pretty sure is an estimate. If I'm spending so much time on reading, I'm only averaging about 3.9 stars, I'm reading too many not good books, to be honest. And I really want to change that. I want to be more intentional with the books I'm reading and make sure that there's something I'm actually going to love, because I'm spending so much time on that. Anyhow, I read a total of 45 books, so I did total read 45 books. My Goodreads goal was 35, and I reached that, I think, in November, so I was very proud of this one. And then my total pages read was 14,568 pages, which I love that. That was very nice. That was enjoyable. And then overall, I DNF'd 3 books this year. And by DNF in this sense, I'm meaning more of the sense of books that I got over 50% of the way through and put down, didn't finish reading. I'm not counting the books as a mood reader. I read like the first chapter and put down, because that's not a really good, basis of this, but I'm talking about books that I read at least 50% of the book and have not picked back up. And that's only 3 books this year. So not horrible, and they're all books that I own, so I will have to finish them at some point. But yeah. And then here is my formats. I primarily read physical books, and I have got an ebook. I got a Kindle halfway through the year, so I did start picking up more of my ebooks. And for audiobooks, this is kind of like a skew, because I really only read or listened to independently 2 audiobooks, which were A Court of Thorn and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury graphic audios, like the full cast cinematic audiobooks of them. But all the other books that I read or listened to on audio were a tandem read with my physical book. I think I heard this from Tori Between Pages mention that she calls this immersive reading, where she's listening to the audiobook and reading at the same time. So I think for my new journal, I'll list it as that, because I hardly ever just listen to audiobooks on their own. So this is my 2023 Wrapped. I'm actually incredibly proud of how this journal came out. I think, like I mentioned earlier, I was really focused on doing more so of finishing the book and less of it being perfect, and just letting myself have fun and just try things out and just enjoy the time that it takes to not be on my phone and just be very hands-on. So I really like this page, and I will continue to do my journal spreads like this with the collage, because I just think it's so much more fun. But yeah, that is my journal, and I will flip through it real quickly without my hands in the way.